India's air defense transformation and the growing threat matrix in South Asia have made headlines as the United States approves the transfer of AIM-120D3 advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, AMRAAMs, to Pakistan. At first glance, this move promises to revolutionize the Pakistan Air Force's ability to hit targets at long range, improving lethality and matching the best Western BVR, beyond visual range, missile inventories worldwide. The AIM-120D3 is not an incremental upgrade. With greater range, active ESA guidance, robust electronic countermeasures, and an expanded no-escape zone, F-16s and future platforms like JF-17 and possibly J-10C can challenge adversaries at distances exceeding 180 kilometers. Washington's approval, part of a record-breaking $41 billion missile deal to bolster allied air forces, pushes Islamabad into direct competition with regional air powers and signals new priorities in U.S. South Asia defense policy. Yet, while Pakistan's procurement of new AIM-120s energizes its air force, India is fortifying its missile shield to historic levels. The Ministry of Defense has initiated procurement talks with Russia for 5 additional S-400 Triumph regiments, raising India's operational total to 10, a deployment scale that redefines regional air cover. The S-400 system is not simply a surface-to-air battery. It serves as a multi-layered defense network, integrating high-powered phased array radars, vertical launch interceptors, command and control software, automated scramble protocols, and hardened communication against electronic warfare. With each additional regiment, India closes radar gaps, overlaps exo-atmospheric and endo-atmospheric kill zones, and extends its umbrella over critical infrastructure, cities, and tactical formations. In expert circles, 10 S-400 batteries, with supporting sensors, cover every ingress route from the Pakistan border, providing early warning and engagement capabilities against fighters, bombers, cruise missiles, drones, and even hypersonic threats. India's strategy is not reliant solely on S-400. The indigenous Project Kusha, India's own long-range surface-to-air missile system, brings advanced sensors, modular interceptor types, and seamless integration within the Indian Air Command and Control System, IACCS. Kusha variants have advertised ranges spanning 150 to up to 400 kilometers, matching S-400's reach, but using homegrown technology, artificial intelligence-based guidance, and networked kill boxes. Early trials show Kusha engaging low radar cross-section targets with automated targeting, adjusting intercept vectors in real time based on threat maneuver and jamming attempts. Rapid deployment of ground mobile launchers, hardened launch cells, and redundancy in fire control mitigate possible attrition in preemptive strikes, making India's missile shield resilient and adaptive. At the shorter end, Akash, India's widely fielded medium-range air defense platform, combines robust radar systems, multi-target tracking, and reliable ECCM. Akash's interceptors, with ranges up to 45 kilometers, provide last-line protection for airbases, headquarters, and high-value communication nodes. Akash is designed to launch multiple interceptors in salvo mode, increasing the kill probability against saturation raids and low-flying threats. Technical analysis of Akash and Kusha demonstrates how stacking different missile layers with overlapping ranges creates a defense-in-depth structure, where every approach vector is scanned and covered by several batteries, limiting the survivability of incoming platforms. This transformation in air defense philosophy upends traditional air combat doctrine in South Asia. The notion of massed fighter formations engaging in classic dogfights or trading BVR missile shots above the battlefield is increasingly obsolete. Instead, the Indo-Pak contest now pivots towards fighting the grid, with Pakistani jets needing to survive concentric anti-aircraft zones before any chance of launching missiles at Indian targets. The experience of Operation Sindoor in May 2025 set the precedent. India's battery network, including S-400 and Akash, shot down 5 Pakistani fighters and a high-value AWACS in the opening hours. Indian AEW and CS guided intercepts, cross-linked nodes, and automated scramble orders allowed surface-to-air missiles to engage fighters even before they could optimize firing positions. This forced Pakistani squadrons to abandon offensive sorties, retreat beyond engagement zones, and operate only at extreme standoff range, well short of reaching key Indian infrastructure. Let's examine the specifics of missile ranges and the nuances of engagement. The AIM-120D3, recently approved for export, boasts an upgraded rocket motor, improved seeker algorithms, and ECCM optimized for advanced jamming environments. The missile can engage targets beyond 160 kilometers, with accurate terminal homing supported by two-way data link. In theory, Pakistani F-16s, flying at maximum altitude and speed, could launch AIM-120s toward Indian jets before entering Indian airspace. But here's the catch: Indian radar coverage, layered over the western sector, tracks inbound targets far outside the AIM-120's maximum range. S-400 intercepts can be authorized at 200 to 400 kilometers, with further coverage from Akash and Kusha as aircraft close to critical sectors. So long as Indian fighters operate inside their protected bubbles, they retain the option of launching their own BVR missiles, Meteor, Astra Mark III, RVVBD, DAR-BER, well before Pakistani platforms reach firing positions. Meteor, fielded on Indian Rafales, leverages ramjet propulsion for extended range and sustained maneuver beyond 150 kilometers. Its no-escape zone is the largest among current BVR systems, thanks to high energy at terminal phases and advanced ECCM. Astra Mark III, a homegrown project, matches Meteor's range, using an active seeker, two-way data link, and digital control systems. For Su-30 MKI and other heavy fighters, Russia's RVVBD pushes engagement to 200 kilometers, offering flexible integration and mass deployment. Israel's DAR-BER, now being trialed on Indian platforms, offers reliable, all-weather performance and robust ECCM, further increasing India's first shot, first kill probability. The numbers matter. S-400s field interceptors in 4 classes, from short to ultra-long range, capable of engaging up to 80 targets simultaneously per battery. Each battery has redundancy in radars and launchers. Akash can track over 60 targets and engage 12 at once, with salvo launches boosting kill probabilities to more than 98% in layered defense. Kusha's AI-driven control nimbly shifts priorities based on threat vector, flight profile, and electronic warfare, moving seamlessly between cruise missiles, heavy bombers, and agile fighters without operator delay. In practical terms, over 200 ready-to-fire interceptors can be launched within minutes along the western sector in crisis, with full redundancy and no single point of failure. Let's break down the engagement sequence. When Pakistani jets scramble for mission, their first challenge is India's median radar line, hundreds of kilometers from the low-C detection, is immediate. Indian IACCS assigns batteries based on predicted flight vector. If engagement is authorized, S-400 launches interceptors en masse as platforms approach 250 to 400 kilometer range. Akash and Kusha supplement at shorter distances, creating overlapping kill zones with full electronic countermeasures and radar redundancy. At each stage, real-time updates from AWACS, ground-based radars, and satellites allow rapid retargeting. For Pakistani fighters, survivability drops drastically, from nearly 70% in standoff BVR exchanges to less than 20% in dense missile kill boxes. Once inside Indian airspace, their ability to launch AIM-120s is stymied by spoofing, jamming, and multi-missile intercepts. The likelihood of successful egress remains minimal. The odds of a successful engagement against Indian fighters inside AD bubbles, which operate with own BVR cover, fall even lower. Post-Sindhua, India tasked its major fighter platforms, Su-30 MKI, Rafale, MiG-29 UPG, LCA Tejas, to maximize standoff tactics, use ambush hook profiles, and operate inside their missile shield envelope. Meteor-carrying Rafales, supported by AEW and sea and ground radar, remain untouchable unless Pakistan risks deep penetration through multiple kill zones. The concept of fighter versus shield has replaced fighter versus fighter. Indian pilots now train for standoff attacks, using electronic warfare, drones, and high-G maneuver to complicate interception for any incoming threat. India's BVR program is now threefold. First, continued induction of Astra Mark III and Mark IV, extending range and reliability for mass deployment. Second, diversification through Israeli and Russian options, DAR-BER for all-weather performance, Python for off-boresight launches, and RVVBD for deep strike. Third, trials of the extended Meteor, offering more range, terminal energy, and seeker upgrades, add redundancy against embargo risks. By integrating multiple missile types and advanced sensors, India ensures flexibility and resilience in crisis or war. Each missile comes with hardened ECCM, sensor fusion, and data links, making electronic attack by adversary platforms less effective. Further, India's air defense is fully integrated with ISR. Satellites, drones, ground radars, and AEW and C platforms feed constant data into IACCS, allowing instant prioritization. Any incoming package can be split by threat level, with S-400 assigned to high-value targets, AWACS, bomber. SBVR-capable fighters, Akash targeting massed formations or cruise missiles, and Kusha filling in coverage gaps. Deep redundancy means that even attrition missile strikes can't cripple the grid. Indian AD planners focus on flexible reload times, mobile launchers, and reassignable batteries, making it nearly impossible for an adversary to blind, saturate, or overwhelm the missile web. What do these systems mean for the next conflict? Should another air war erupt, India's 10 S-400 batteries, full deployment of Project Kusha, and massed Akash platforms create concentric bubbles no adversary can breach unscathed. Pakistani fighters, even with AIM-120D3 upgrades, face staggered layers, exo-atmospheric defense at up to 400 kilometers, endo-atmospheric engagement starting at 200 and expanding to 64 parallel targets, and finally terminal kill from Akash and point defense batteries. Each kill box is designed to absorb, adapt, and counter saturation raids. Against such a web, fighter survivability is determined not by missile range, but by how many simultaneous targets the grid can track and engage. Meanwhile, India's fighters can launch massed BVR attacks at standoff distance. Rafale's Meteor and Astra series, loaded with ECCM and real-time guidance, allow first strike with nearly double the probability of kill compared to legacy systems. Indian tactics now include standoff Wolfpack, profiles, drone-supported suppression, and multi-axis attacks to pull adversary fighters from cover and force missile launches at suboptimal range. AEW and C provides full airspace scan, while ground radars hand off targets to airborne shooters, maximizing coverage. Let's consider attrition and cost. Every interceptor fired by India's grid is backed by redundant batteries, mobile resupply, and rapid reload capability. Pakistani squadrons, conversely, must rely on a finite supply of imported AMRAAMs, limited support aircraft, and increasingly outdated support assets. The economics of missile exchange now favor India. For every long-range AIM-120 fired, Indian defense layers can launch 2 to 3 interceptors, each with its own guidance, ECCM, and data link. Attrition rates for offensive squadrons rise, while defending assets remain protected by multiple layers. Strategically, Pakistani AMRAAMs serve as both deterrent and retaliatory tool in theory. But geography, coverage, and the physics of engagement mean that real-world effect is sharply limited. If India's grid scrambles in response to incursion, its surface-to-air systems, AEW and C, and integrated fighters can challenge every incoming track at multiple points. The experience of Operation Sindhur, where Pakistan's high-value platforms were shot down at range, reinforces these limits. In future contests, air-to-air duels will be rare. Instead, attrition, missile saturation, and electronic warfare will determine success. Integrated AD grids with real-time AI protocols will challenge every offensive sortie, imposing unsustainable attrition rates and denying air parity. India's procurement strategy is increasingly future-focused. Additional S-400s, expanded Kusha deployment, and continuous upgrades to indigenous BVR pixels combine with strategic reserves to ensure long-term resilience. The technical edge will come from sensor fusion, hardened ECCM, multi-protocol data links, and resilience against cyber attack. A next-generation AD web, flexible, dense, and fully networked, is nearly within reach. South Asia's airspace is transforming into a digital battle space, ruled not by fighters and missiles alone, but by the depth and intelligence of integrated systems. To summarize, the US AMRAAM deal for Pakistan provides new long-range strike options, but it will not offset the tectonic changes in India's defense grid. 10 S-400 batteries, Project Kusha, massed Akash deployment, and an expanding fighter BVR inventory mean the next Indo-Pak air war will play out as Pakistani fighter versus Indian defense network, with classic dogfights replaced by saturation missile kill zones, high-G intercepts, and real-time AI-guided prioritization. Indian airspace will become the most difficult battle space in the region, every meter scanned, every threat challenged, every approach covered by multi-layered missile domes and rapid response protocols. Even the most advanced AIM-120s, fielded in sufficient numbers, cannot guarantee parity when faced by a fully fused, flexible, and redundant Indian missile shield. Adversary fighters will risk rapid shotdown at range, just as India proved during Operation Sindhur. The new contest is not about missile numbers, but about integrated systems, depth, resilience, and adaptation. The outcome will shape South Asia's security equation for decades. India's focus on technology, integration, and redundancy creates a defensive grid that transforms conflict calculus. In the next war, lethality will be decided not by the longest strang missile, but by the most intelligent, interconnected, and resilient defense web. No matter how many AIM-120s Pakistan receives and how advanced its fighter fleet becomes, the odds will increasingly favor the side that has built a digital wall of sensors, shooters, and command links, a wall India is building higher every year. In this new era, the fight will be decided by supercomputers, fusion centers, and adaptive missile domes, not by dogfights above the clouds. The next Indo-Pak air war promises a paradigm shift, and India's combined air defenses, fighter innovations, and procurement choices position it as the regional leader in airspace denial, dominance, and missile shield integration. Every new S-400, every Project Kusha launcher, every upgrade to Akash or AEW and C scanning brings the threshold of invulnerability closer. The verdict of future conflict is clear. Indian air defense will define the battle space, control the contest, and decide the fate of fighter duels for decades to come. This is the future of South Asian air power, complex, integrated, and dominated by those who invest in the shield, not only the sword.